Poppy Playtime is getting a brand new ARG for Chapter 3, and today I wanted to talk about what we could be getting from theories to release dates, and how it could revolve around the release of Chapter 3, and I found some crazy things. So here's everything we know. So for starters, let's start with teasers, because if you didn't know, we've so far gotten 2 brand new teasers, which you may have already seen depending on how invested you've been with this ARG. To briefly summarize, randomly in late June, the developers posted on their social medias this image with no context, and when brightening it, we could see a 3 on the right and a figure on the left, which up until this point has still been ambiguous. We don't know who they are. However, what's most important about this teaser is in the middle, we could see a monitor of some sorts with apps on the side, and while this all seems relatively meaningless, it ties well into the second teaser we got, which shows the exact same monitor, but this time it's on the CCTV camera app we saw in the first tease, showing us a photo of what appears to be the Huggy statue area seen in Chapter 1. In fact, I know this because back in Chapter 2, before it was released, they actually made another ARG for that game, where the website security.poppyplaytime.com could be accessed, showing this exact camera angle among many others, where we saw a mysterious bee and kill a cat bee toy later revealed to be Mommy Longlegs. We can also see what appears to be interactable arrow buttons to move across different camera angles here as well, just like what we saw in the original Chapter 2 ARG, which tells me that this is going to most likely be some sort of interactable camera computer system, just like Chapter 2's, where these cameras will presumably slowly update to reveal more to us as time passes. Which then brings up the next big question about this ARG. When is it going to take place? Will it take place in the past or in the present of the actual game? See, while as of right now we only have these 2 teasers, other parts around other games have already given us more teasers for the chapter as well, such as Project Playtime, which gave us this poster hinting at Chapter 3 with new characters here, and most importantly, in their newest update, they also gave us a phone which we will supposedly need to use at some point in the future. More specifically, this phone is believed to at some point be activated in the future to use with this brand new ARG, since it was released around the same time as this teaser, and we see countless phone numbers hidden in Poppy Playtime, sometimes real ones like Patty Hall's or the phone number we originally used in the Project Playtime ARG, or even in-game ones like what we see in the Daddy Longlegs poster, which could presumably be entered into this phone. And this is important because we've theorized in past videos that Project Playtime, the game, took place before the factory closed, since in the tutorial, Leith, Pierre, and other employees are still alive in this version, so they haven't gone missing yet like in Poppy Playtime. And more specifically, the game is after Mommy Longlegs' creation in 1991, so it's sometime in the mid to late 90s. And in theme, the computer used inside of the teaser image appears to be a G54 monitor, judged by the label at the bottom left, which was also created in the late 90s. Plus, the software the computer mimics appears to be Windows 95 UI, created in 1995. So it seems simple, it takes place in the 90s. I've already talked about this in other videos. However, there is one massive issue with this theory, which is that going back to the second teaser image shown here, like mentioned, it shows the Huggy Wuggy stand from the original second chapter ARG, but you'll notice that on this teaser, Huggy Wuggy is actually missing from the statue, which literally only happens when we play Chapter 1 and Huggy leaves his post when we infiltrate the factory. So that actually means that this computer location has to take place in present time, or in between Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. I mean, I guess it's technically possible that this is a placeholder since it's literally just a copy-paste image we've seen before, but I know how the developers are, and unless I'm mistaken, I highly doubt that they would use this image here unless it was an intentional detail that we are meant to be pointing out, especially if we are going to be using this monitor system to presumably watch for stuff in the factory. Now, I think I know when this ARG is going to finally start later in this video, so stick around. But before that, the next thing I want to talk about is the theories for this ARG, because there are a couple very important things I found interesting with these new teasers specifically. See, on the surface, everything we have here is simple. There are some CCTV cameras we have here and a computer system which may hide some more secrets in the future. We'll probably use them later and more secrets will show up there when that happens. However, what I found very interesting about this chapter leading up to the newest ARG is that the focus seems to be around eyes. More specifically, first off, back during Easter time of this year, you may remember we got a comic showing Bunzo Bunny adventuring around the game station area among other places before falling into a pit and eventually dying, with a render being shown of his body rotting away and most notably pieces of his eyes being plucked out of his sockets with scratches all over the wall, something that has been oddly present with other characters like some Huggies we see in the Rejected Toys room, or even Brawn the dinosaur, who never has eyes in the first place. But they never explained what did this to them, or perhaps who. Furthermore though, when this original ARG teaser was given to us, one of the developers sent out a message with a riddle saying, "There is a thing you're not seeing. You've used it for quite a while. They have been disconnected, but now seems that the power power is back on. Is this related to your eyes? Once again, hinting at the importance of eyes and seeing things specifically in the ARG. However, what makes this all really important is that you may remember back in November, we had the Project Playtime ARG, which allowed us to see what happened to people like Rowan Stoll and presumably other characters in the factory who accidentally saw the bigger bodies experiments like Huggy Wuggy, and they end up getting killed because of it. With Rowan in particular even noticing in his own words that he saw nanny cams in the eyes of Huggy Wuggy, almost as if somebody was using these eyes to monitor things in the factory, interestingly enough. However, the biggest part of the previous ARG referencing eyes is that randomly a bunch of Twitter accounts popped up with prominent characters in the game, which was used for different puzzles, but after a few days they would completely shut down, leaving nothing in their place except for images of what appears to be a poppy flower itself, with an eye sitting in the middle of it, interestingly enough, saying, "I see you," which is not an unfamiliar image, as we see it hiding on the Project Playtime scientist uniforms, and perhaps most importantly, we see it as the key we use to enter Elliot Ludwig's office in Chapter 2, showing the flower, as we could expect, was a bright red poppy with a small eye in the middle. Now, while deciphering what this means and how it connects to all the other eye references in the game to this day is still impossible, we have theorized before that this eye could potentially be used as some sort of eye of providence, a symbol used in religious context or even in cults to represent a higher power or god figure to watch over it and protect its followers, which is very interesting when in the context of Poppy Playtime, because we know that the poppy flower held some kind of supernatural abilities in this factory universe, especially in reference to Elliot Ludwig, since one of the first creations of the factory was the Poppy Playtime doll herself, made of poppies, who is all but confirmed to be Elliot's daughter he lost before kickstarting the experimentation. And we even saw on his desk in Chapter 2 a piece of paper of people experimenting on rats, trying to revive them using poppies to no success, which gives me the impression that Elliot, and for that matter everyone in the factory, saw the poppy flower as supernatural because they didn't know how it worked, and therefore they used it as a symbol of protection, assuming it revived his daughter, watching over it and protecting everyone who was good and punishing those who they deem as outsiders and bad. I made a whole theory about it here, which you should totally check out after this. But grounding ourselves for a second, what does any of this have to do with the new ARG? Well, for now, it's still ambiguous, but I have a feeling it could be a materialization of this all-seeing eye. Since if you didn't know, when playing Poppy Playtime, we are basically always being watched by something, whether it be random CCTV security sitting around the map or automatic cameras that follow us in the game modes. Something is always seeing every one of our moves, even if we don't notice it. For example, Huggy Wuggy has the nanny cams that we never even knew about. And I'm beginning to wonder if this new monitor system we could see here could be allowing us to use our eyes, as the developers have hinted at, and get to see everything in the factory, watching everything take place, potentially even getting to access the Huggy cameras in his eyes from the original ARG, which to this day we are yet to see any other references to. I mean, it's an interesting idea and the pieces are all there, but it's still inconclusive, so if you have your own theories about what all this eye stuff could mean, put it in the comments below. However, the last and probably most important question I want to ask is, how long until this ARG is finally released? Because I'm sure you guys all want to know. Well, there's actually a few good theories. See, I've discussed ad nauseum on my channel already that there's two dates that could mean something. July 15th, which we see inside of Project Playtime on the same sign that said June 20th, foreshadowing Chapter 1's remaster date, along with the date July 19th, which is shown as a time on the original teaser, possibly being for another day. And while both of these dates can mean a multitude of things, some people think they're going to be for Chapter 3's trailer or when Chapter 2 is going to get its own remaster, the day I really want to focus on here is July 15th, because while we do end up seeing this date on the poster here, there's also a very important piece we are missing in this ARG, which is that going back into the Project Playtime ARG, more specifically the Rowan Stoll tapes, he spends his spring and summer talking with Leith Pierre through VHS tapes about his sightings of Huggy Wuggy, before then his tapes would end off on none other than July 15th, where in the final log we could see Rowan Stoll make his last video ever saying he was going to disable these security systems inside of the factory in order to leak everything out and let everybody know what was going on inside of it, before sending out a final note dated on the exact same day where he begs for help from his family, giving access to his computer, leaking everything that we know up until this day. Meaning that to me, it seems obvious that something massive is going to happen on July 15th, since it seems to be one of the most important dates in the entire game. And more specifically, this seems like the day that the ARG is going to start, or at least some sort of data breach is going to happen, or something big in that vein, especially since the original Project Playtime ARG still has files that we were literally never able to open. Plus, another date worth noting is that on on July 20th, after killing Rowan Stoll, the company would also point out a note addressing the data breaches, asking people to keep quiet. So while we don't know too much, in between the days July 15th and July 20th, something happened that changed everything for Playtime Co. As not 10 years later, the factory would close and we would explore it in Poppy Playtime, where everyone goes missing. And while we don't know what that something is, looking at Rowan Stoll's last video, he seemed to be in absolute panic. So what are all these secrets Rowan found out, and how will we discover them? Well, July 15th is a week away, and we will be there to answer it all when it happens, so make sure to subscribe, and also check out this other video where I talk more about Poppy Playtime. Comment how many times I said ARG in the comments, I'll pin them again, and peace out, guys.